Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 60, April 12th, 2019. Allowing the deeper you to emerge, changing your belief system for conceiving. What beliefs do you hold around fertility? What deeper awarenesses are you creating? How can you address your conception with a fresh energy? I have a special guest today, Kathy. Kathy Ospina is a fertility coach, intuitive healer, and mama of two beautiful girls. It's her mission to find the belief that is stopping your body from conceiving so you can finally heal and get pregnant. Her approach is a combination of neuroscience with a dab of spiritual, aka woo-woo. She's an integrative health coach with Duke Integrative Medicine and has received additional trainings through Postpartum Action Institute and Dona International. Dona, D-O-N-A International. Welcome, Kathy.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you. I'm so excited and happy to be on your podcast.
Yeah, I love that. I always, with some people are new people and we've kind of have a connection. We've been supporting, both of our works with each other in different ways. And Kathy found me through another fertility expert and to join her summit, which was really fun. And I never told you about that. There was a lot of women from Ireland came in my direction. And I'm always very curious about all these different people, internationally around the world. And I remember them talking about, oh, Kathy. And then we've, I think recently you did, you have a membership and you had me as a guest, which was really fun. It was so much fun to have people popping up in the video with all their questions and thoughts and ideas, and that was really neat. So welcome. But I would love to, I read your little bio here, but I want to hear more so others can really understand, what is it that how do you support women on a fertility journey, and what does that look like?
Sure, yeah. So how I support people, I think, sometimes that question is really loaded, and I think sometimes we just overthink it a little bit. I'm like, but I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and there's so many aspects to it. But really, I just listen and let myself be a channel for what's needed. And I think one of the special gifts that I have is looking at, and I love your title, by the way, I think you summarized it so beautifully, is looking at the beliefs, looking inside of the mental body. Where are the beliefs that are stopping a woman from being able to conceive? And what are the, how can we reframe that through mindset work? But one of the biggest things, and this is what I'm going to be talking about today on the call, is through action as well. Because highly conscious women are really what I see struggling. They're doing a lot of the mindset work, visualization, tapping, meditations, really on that spiritual path. And somehow their life is still, they're not changing enough at the third dimensional action level in order to really align with fertility. So I'm going to be talking, that was kind of the big surprise, and I'm bad at surprises. So that is what we're going to be talking about a little bit later. How we can really fully align our third dimensional actions to our intention and our vision of what we see ourselves as moms at those higher dimensional levels.
I love how you say, this third dimensional action and intention. I'm like, yes, I'm feeling it. Explain more about that. I feel like most people understand what third dimension is, right? How do you kind of define that?
Yeah, our third dimension is this physical reality in our bodies, what we can see, feel, and touch. And, we're also multidimensional beings. So the fourth dimension would be like the mind, thoughts, and then, fifth dimension and above is more information, Sixth dimension is beingness, and then there's the higher dimensions as well.
Oh, I love that, how you kind of share that, because I do feel like a lot of people tuning in may be like, oh, I know third dimension, but what are all these other dimensions, and how does that, coincide with the connection of the self, but also in that connection to even spirit baby energy, I'm sure, is in one of those dimensions, and that connection that's built. But even what you're talking about, I think, is really important. It's about the journaling, the visualizing, the meditating, the tapping, as you shared. You're like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff. Like, but why, what's happening? Why isn't, why am I not, pregnant? Or, is there another piece to this? And I know with women, I feel like we probably attract the same type of clients where they've done a lot of work. They're like, okay, I'm a great eater. I could run a marathon practically. Like, where, why isn't this happening? And that next piece that you talk about, that subconscious, that belief, I feel like that's such a, even like when I tune into that, it feels like, oh, it's so tricky. It really is. And what can you say more about that? Maybe more the emotions in that space, or the fears, or how can we really restructure a belief system? Like, how does that really begin?
Yeah. So I think it's a journey of a lifetime. I don't think we're really shooting for perfection. I don't think there's necessarily a right answer. But really where this kind of started in me was my own story. So I got pregnant easily. I don't really have a fertility story. My story began in postpartum, like really dealing with postpartum depression, postpartum OCD, anxiety, rage, just a really difficult time adjusting to motherhood. And because I was an experienced meditator, what I saw and the insight that I got was that this was a clearing out. But I was also being shown, what my purpose was, what I was here to do, and that this was not only my shadow, but the shadow of all humanity, this subconscious, what I like to call the old consciousness of motherhood. And I want to share this, in response to your question, because this is where I believe that our fertility blocks lie, is in this old consciousness of motherhood. And let me just share with you, a little bit about what I mean as a frame of reference. Mothers, like the old archetype of motherhood is women who really abandon their dreams, live fully and completely for their children, which is beautiful, right? That unconditional love, nurturing, no one will love you like your mother. And that's all very beautiful. But the shadow side of this is, or how it's sometimes executed, is an overgiving that really turns into martyrism, self-sacrifice, resentment. And another insight that I got going through that really difficult time is this kind of karmically passing the buck. So women that were giving up their dreams and had this, subconscious idea, children are our future, but also we're going to stop our healing and just kind of live through our children. And this puts tremendous expectation, tremendous pressure on these future generations. And so again, just piecing all this together, going through, my own healing and this really dark night of the soul, what I really got was that just as the old planetary institutions are falling apart, the political systems are changing, environmental, is changing, the healthcare system is changing, it's falling apart to really bring down what's true. It's this breaking down of the old, breaking down of what no longer serves to bring forward what is true, and it is for our healing and for our highest good. So just as all of these institutions are changing, so this old institution of the way that mothers were, this old archetype of what a mother was and what a woman is and what a mother is, all of this is breaking down, and it's coming up in infertility in order to be healed. The higher vibrational souls that are wanting to be born from us, they don't want all this conditioning. And also what I've seen through my clients are really, really highly conscious women who, maybe they have had experiences with their moms where there was a lot of reverse parenting, where there was a lot of conditioning, where there was a lot of even, emotional abuse, physical abuse. narcissistic moms, or maybe even observing other women when they become mothers and kind of go, losing their identity, losing their sense of self, going into, again, this martyrism or this self-sacrifice. And that's what I see as a major block to fertility is these, whether it's the highly conscious or highly vibrational soul that wants to be born through you, or it is, you yourself that is, really questioning, well, how do I want a mother? Maybe you have a big purpose inside of your heart and you think you have this old idea that's blocking because you think, well, I can't do both, right? I can't be a mom and still be a powerful woman. Or, you had that negative experience with your own mom, a lot of abuse that needs to be healed. And maybe there's that questioning of yourself, the who am I conversation still comes up, or do I deserve to be a mom? All of those kinds of conversations come up. So I'm sharing this with you because this is what I see, and this is what I saw when I was going through that really dark night of the soul as the major fertility blocks. And this is what collectively needs to be healed, and what we're also healing at an individual level. And so how to heal this is one, the first step is being aware of how this is showing up for you. So this would be, every individual, every woman would have a different fertility block. And the second part is shifting your mindset. And then the third part of this is really aligning your life. And that's what I talked about, aligning the third dimensional actions to shifting your vibration in order to attract new results. Because that's where I see kind of women stop is, at the surrender, at the, at the tapping, at the mindset work, and they're not incorporating actions, which actions are much louder vibrationally than words. Or, then fourth dimensional. It's the densest level. So going back to, the third dimension is the densest level that we can experience. And so when we align our life to fertility and this is the best way to change our beliefs and shift our vibrational state in order to attract a new result and manifest what we want to manifest.
So much around the subconscious. I hear it, and it feels very big, and I could see how you bring it for others, very individual, like what is your specific connection to that? And I'm like thinking, who doesn't have mother stuff, right? I mean, it's like this mother stuff is ongoing, and then we become mothers, and there's so many pieces to that. And as you were speaking, it reminds me of, there's a woman who, I feel like it's her term, and she calls it the mother wound. And it just reminds me, like, a little bit of what you're sharing and how she goes. And it's almost like it's really intense. It's really deep. Like this, what you're sharing and this kind of mother wound stuff, it's like I could see why, let's deflect it. Let's not even go there. Let's put it in a tiny little corner and it'll be like kind of gnawing at my spirit. But I don't know, like this is really, what does that mean? And how to kind of up level it and look at it. And another thing you said, my head started wandering, going, wow, I wonder if we just have to detox mothers out of our system somehow, not in a way that's hurtful, but more of a way that's creating a boundary around a relationship that everybody is, separate beings, that have their connection to who they are, but you can still have a relationship instead of, maybe I'm just reflecting myself, instead of enmeshment. I think that was my childhood. It was like there's so much enmeshment. I became a part of what she needed me to be. And the deservability is so big. This is a big one I've seen in people's energy fields. Like sometimes it flashes in the sacral and different parts of the body, and I'm like, oh yeah, and there is a theme around that. This deservability to, and even as you say, it's not 1950s anymore where, there's a different set, like, yeah, you're the, and like you said, yeah, being a homemaker is great, being a mother, if that's where you're feeling connected to. But also, you're right, like today, we're very more interactive. Like, okay, I want to work and I want to be a mother with my baby and my children, and can I do all these different pieces? And our culture does tell us, well, maybe you're not going to be a good mother if you do that, or no, your work is more important. You need to make some money, or all these different pieces that swim inside the brain, right? That swim inside the mind, and as you talk about, even that subconscious place of like, okay, and that we are, all of us collectively, we can even take it to that level of the feminine, and even the world of pregnancy and birth. There's so much stuff. It reminds me of even just with the way women birth. Like, why is there such a disconnect in the medical establishment between, and the higher rates of cesarean birth? What is happening here? Like, why does this keep, but then you're like, oh, this is deep. This goes back. Like, and now we're all trying to kind of stir up the soils to kind of create something different, something more empowering, but also something more loving, love-centered or something, it's, but yeah, so that's, I feel like that's deep. I mean, it makes sense, but it's deep too. Is there anything else you can share? I know it's like, I don't know if you can share something you've seen with other people that you've connected with, or maybe you've seen a theme with women in fertility, and maybe it is the subconscious piece. I don't know.
Yeah. One of the themes that I see with my really highly conscious clients is that they really need to step into their purpose and birth their consciousness. And one of the things I say is, the highly conscious woman really has a double mission, which is to birth that baby, but it's also to birth themselves. So it's, what I see is, it's unlocking that creative potentiality within themselves, stepping into their power, stepping into their truth, stepping into their purpose, and even manifesting their purpose. And those two are really connected. The birth of that baby getting pregnant and the birth of themselves are truly connected. And so they're already, in taking steps, sometimes with my clients, the coaching I give them seems kind of like business coaching. I tell them to enroll clients or to shoot videos or, do all these things. But the action steps are really, again, about breaking up those subconscious beliefs. And I think you said it so perfectly because, this is about our mothers. But the image I got when you said this runs so deep is it does. It runs so deep. It is about embracing our divine feminine. It is about embracing the earth. I mean, this is just so, so deep and so powerful. So it goes even beyond our own personal story of mothers, but it's really embracing our power as women. And again, this is what I would say. This is the theme that I get from my very, very highly conscious women is that they are so big. They feel so big inside of themselves, yet they're living so small. And then there's this disconnect between their consciousness and what they're manifesting at a third dimensional level. And through that action is how we bridge those two. And it really is about stepping into their power, stepping into their creativity.
Yeah. I like how you keep mentioning action because that is important, right? Because you go into an energetic spiritual environment or meditating, there's action energetically, but there's not like that action you're saying like, oh, well, now, call the client or go outside and walk somewhere. It's like that, third dimensional, as you're saying, like, oh, this action is going to create maybe a new neural loop or something that allows you then to open up to another opportunity. Maybe that's what I'm kind of like feeling into that process of creating that action that you can't just sit back and wait. I mean, some people may have to sit back sometimes, but there's, like you're saying that action, like when is that step in a certain direction that's, again, there's this waiting that happens. And
oh, go on.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say again, nothing shifts you vibrationally like action. There's that saying, actions speak louder than words. And that's very true. Sometimes we have a misunderstanding about surrender because we think surrender means giving up. But looking at it another way, this is not about giving up. It's surrender to me is really trusting that what's meant to happen is going to happen, but continuing to take the aligned actions. And the other way I like to reframe it is, what are we surrendering to? It's not about surrendering to your fear and doubt and negativity and small self. It's really about surrendering to that infinite self, that infinite potentiality, that higher consciousness inside of you. So what if you surrender to that vision inside of you that says that you are supposed to be a mom? What if you, even no matter what, the doctor says, no matter what the statistics say, no matter what your friends or family says, what if you surrender to, again, like I talk about purpose a lot, what if you surrender to that vision of yourself on stages? What if you surrender to yourself as a leader? What if you surrender to that vision of whatever you believe is your life purpose? What if you surrender to that? What action steps would you take? So again, surrender is an act of power. It is to get beyond, this limited self. We all have the limited self. We all have the doubter, but surrender is about going to your infinite self and aligning with that.
I love what you're saying. I'm like, my eyes are closed and I'm like, yes, Kathy. I'm like feeling that. I'm like tuning in going, yeah, because I could apply that just in other parts of my life. And I'm going, yes, motivation, Kathy, motivation. You're like coaching me right now. Don't even know it. But,
go, Kelly.
I know. I'm going.
We talked about earlier. Do video, Kelly. Do video.
I know, right? That's one of the things. Like this year is the year of big change for me, and I feel that resistance. But then I know the action. I'm literally I pulled up some papers and I'm sending things out, and I'm going, okay, look, you're actually taking action, Kelly. Instead of sitting there thinking about it, right? It's I'm just going to sit back here and think about it all the time, or I'm going to get to that. And the surrender, I feel is such a good, topic to really explore and to look at the energy of surrender. And you're right. I feel like most people think surrender means I'm letting go and that's it and it's all over. And, but it's, obviously it's the perception of it going, okay, surrender is a part of the journey that as you surrender these pieces around you and it feels maybe cold. You're the surrender is this blanket that's I don't want to let it go. It's keeping me warm. But it's no, it's so much more than that. And, I really love that word surrender. But it's something that we do need to address on a conception journey. And because, there is so much uncertainty. There is so much unknown. And it's hard to, at times, as you said, the doubter of the mind to go, okay, am I crazy or is this my imagination or who do I think I am and what am I doing? But the action mixed with the energetic kind of awareness then creates that conscious awareness and understanding to go, okay, what would you say, I'm sure you get women that, have birth loss, whether it's, single miscarriage or multiple miscarriage. I'm not sure if this is an area that you explore with others. What can you say around that?
It's a tricky one. I just had a client who had a miscarriage. And I don't know, how you can, one, you have to grieve. You have to feel the pain of that. And I do believe that we are creators of our reality. So from a past life, from somewhere, we vibrationally co-created this. So taking, and this is hard to say, taking responsibility for that, accepting it, but also knowing you're not to blame for this. You're not to blame for this. There's two very different things. And it is about deep, deep forgiveness of yourself, of any part of you that, let's say made a choice in one lifetime or another. Because again, as an Akashic record reader, I look back and, many women who have come to me have taken vows of chastity in past lives, have taken vows of sacrifice, and have taken vows of suffering. And so when we look at it from that bigger lens, of course we didn't consciously choose that, of course, but in our past life, and probably from that same, old consciousness of motherhood, where, it was maybe more powerful or safer to be in a convent than be a mother, then we did choose that. And that's where our subconscious and past life and karmic patterns are at odds with our current life choices. And so that's where I say, it is about just being open to that greater perspective, and that and taking responsibility that at some level of you co-created this, but again, you're not to blame, and grieving it, experiencing it. And when we get to a certain level of spiritual maturity, to even say thank you, because knowing, and this is where the trust comes in, knowing that, Source, God, universe is guiding you toward your dream. And this is something that needed to clear out. And it doesn't mean that it's not meant to happen. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean that God doesn't want you to be a mom. It doesn't mean that anything. It doesn't mean anything negative. It's just simply just trusting that greater plan for yourself and keep on going with that vision in your heart. So that's what I would say to women who are experiencing miscarriage.
That feels lovely to hear. Another thing that kind of, as you're speaking, is popping up into my mental space is, what about two things? One is, how are you supporting women that are going through intervention, whether it's IUI or IVF? And because I'm sure there's a different kind of connection around that. And also even partners. I would love to hear your two ideas and around how you address that as well.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really see too much of a difference with IVF or any intervention. Maybe that will change as I, become more conscious, as I'm growing and become more sensitive and conscious, and I'll feel something a bit different. But I see it really as a method. It's a method. It's, and that's part of your path too.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you find, especially with IVF, I feel like, and IUI, that women and couples need continuous support in the emotional and spiritual to navigate that journey in a very mindful, heartful way that is building towards that. Because some women will go through multiple, which they call fails, right? And so some women going 5, 7, 10, which gets very intense, right? I mean, I feel like IVF is it changes the whole physiology and the system in such a way that some women are, that it doesn't result in anything but trauma for some women, and then they're like kind of rebooting their body and trying to find the balance. I'm just curious what you've experienced and seen on that. But if you're, you see it as, the same kind of energy that you're in that creation and using that method. I like how you said call it the method. It sounds like more loving than like these words they use is like, transfer and bells, and it makes it seem so separate. But you're right. There is probably definitely a reason and a journey for that experience. And the reason why I say, yes, I mean, you're right. There's a different kind of, it does change the body. But what I think is, what I run into is really highly conscious women who they don't want IVF. They're kind of afraid of it. They think that it's something wrong, and they think that it's unnatural. And yet they've kind of exhausted other options. And so that's why I share with them, just to embrace it as well. So embrace it. That doesn't mean it's the option for everyone, but really to check in with your own intuition. What is the method for you? And to embrace everything, as everything is spirit. And I'm glad that it exists, right? So feeling inside of yourself, I believe that the answers come from inside of you. What is the method
if you feel that you have a baby, that you're connecting to a spirit baby, there's a baby to be born from you, then don't be afraid of a method.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just want to embrace it as everything is spirit, and even everything can be sacred. Everything can be sacred. Even IVF. It's a sacred path. What's your path?
I definitely agree with that. And women do get very upset. Of course, they're, I want, natural conception. Of course, everyone wants natural conception, natural birth, but the reality is that doesn't happen. And how to now accept the sacredness in it and do the work around what that means for that individual or that couple. And I've seen women, and you probably have seen women, I don't know, I've seen women go from IVF to naturally conceived to back to IVF to, kind of moving back and forth and all around. And it's so interesting to talk about the subconscious. I've seen women maybe go 5, 7, even 10 years and finally conceive with IVF and then want to conceive again. And some of these women I've worked with, they said the doctors told them they didn't need IVF, which was very interesting, right? And then they're like, but I'm scared. I don't know how to deprogram myself. And I've seen these women deprogram themselves and actually move into natural conception. But the program, right? It's like, oh no, the program says this is the only way, because you've struggled. And, I can't imagine what it's like to go year after year after year and putting all your energy, right, into building this being and, calling in this spirit and not, being in so much uncertainty all the time. But we talk about the lesson and experience of life. That's just the reality for some people and couples. And there are so many parts to that. It's never just one thing. It's multi-level.
And I think that's powerful what you said, the program, because the program could be, that's why the subconscious mind's so tricky. What the block that, let's say it could be for fertility or for IVF could stem from a belief that has nothing on the surface to do with it because of the way the energetic works. I mean, if it's like a belief in scarcity, let's say, or, then how to deprogram it would be, the actions may have something around money or, right? Or so the way the energetic works is like, it's not necessarily like, embracing IVF or doing a lot of thought work about IVF. It's really looking at that major energetic block. And I read it like a sentence. I use it with a pendulum. I don't see it as clearly as you, Kelly. But I read it with a pendulum. And when I look at what that energetic statement is that's getting in the way of fertility, then from there we talk about a plan and action steps to take at the third dimensional level. And again, they could be very, very different. Like it doesn't have to be like, okay, do some pregnancy visualizations or, embrace motherhood, or it could be, anything from your health or, health-related things, going to work out, usually, like I said, usually when it's like business advice, but this is how you're going to shift energetically to rewrite those faulty computer programs.
Yeah, I like how you said that. I could really resonate with that. And just, when I see people energetically as well, a lot of energy goes into the sacral, the second chakra, the womb center. Like somehow there must be something broken there. And it could be the heart. It could be the crown. It could be, the digestion. The solar plexus has like issues or, and I've seen phrases and words come out of people's body like, oh, what's this? What is this thing that they're saying? Like, and we'll bring that up. And it's, and I feel like that's the biggest part to a fertility journey, especially a long struggle, that the assumption is that, like you said, oh, I need to sit and visualize more of this, or I have to do this. It's like, oh, but then there's avoidance of actually what those next pieces of emotions are underneath that may have nothing to connect with the way you think it does. Like, oh, it has to be something around, fertility specifically, and it can be, but like you said, sometimes it's other things, which, you know, again, is such an individual experience that I've seen as well.
And I love that you brought up the chakra system, because it's everything. Everything is connected. And we know that, but we forget this, right? So that's the place to start looking at, just being, just observing, where in my body am I feeling tension? Where in my life are things not flowing? You know, because we can get in this lens of just looking at the result. What I want isn't manifesting. And hitting our head against a brick wall and trying to will it to happen. And instead, you know, taking some time to reflect and ask questions and feel any, you know, triggers are a great place. Emotional triggers, anywhere where you're triggered, what's the belief there? Where in my life? And I make it really simple, you know, health, wealth, or love. Where am I not, you know, where am I not choosing it? Where am I a victim? Where do I feel disempowered? Where are things not flowing? Where do I feel stuck? And this is where, you know, where to look, or where in my body do I feel areas of tension? And then, of course, when you understand the chakra systems and you understand what you know, your body's talking to you, and you'll start to see it's like you're getting the feedback everywhere, because, again, I believe that this greater source that's guiding us is giving us all of the messages, is giving us all of the breadcrumbs and clues. And so it'll be like something in your finances, something in your body, something in your, you know, you'll get an email about it. Like now I get emails about things that I'm thinking of, and I'm like, oh, okay, right? And so you get these action steps. And it's just a matter of you opening yourself up in order to read it. And then the part where I see people forget is take the action. You have to take the action. We're highly conscious, I think really highly conscious women were, you know, taught that, you know, if I'm afraid, then that must mean something's wrong. Or if this feels uncomfortable, or if it's not flowing, or if it doesn't feel good, that means something's wrong. But often it's like, it's uncomfortable because it's new to us, yet it's our natural state. Being healthy, wealthy, and, you know, in love is our natural state. And that may feel uncomfortable to us because, you know, we have all of these misbeliefs and misunderstandings in terms of, you know, not charging what we're worth, in terms of feeling that we don't deserve health, that we don't deserve to feel good, or shining, or, you know, stepping into our truth. We have all of these misbeliefs and all of this deservedness conversation. And so when we show up, when we, you know, feel pleasure, when we really go to the next level in our business, this feels deeply uncomfortable. And there's a fear storm that we must go through. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. That doesn't mean that it's actually our natural state. We just need to have the courage to face that fear storm in order to get to the other side of it.
And I feel like we've all been in that fear storm. It swirls around, and then we become trapped at times and paralyzed by it for moments. But, you know, it's something you were sharing reminded me, something I shared in a workshop yesterday, something I've never really shared before, actually. I talked about, like, in this workshop, I want you to see what you love and what you feel in your body and you resonate with. And I said, I want you to feel I said hate. And I feel, okay, maybe not hate, but I said fear or feel uncomfortable with. And I want you to take those two pieces and see how those are the two pieces that is the next part of your conception journey. And, you know. And so it was and again, I was experimenting, but I was like, yeah, being uncomfortable, being in fear doesn't mean that everything is wrong, right? This is the misinterpretation. It's just, it isn't uncomfortable to be in fear. And I feel like there's levels of fear. I call it more like dangerous fear or normal fear, because some people do go into dangerous places with fear. And I'm sure you tune into that with people energetically, that you're going, okay, they can go into a dark pit of severe anxiety or depression. And how much do I want them to go down without a rope around them and pull them back out, right? And so, you know, there's always that balance. But fear is, you know, I mean, fear is our life. Like this is Earth. this is earthways, and, I'm sure fear is always coming up on a conception journey where, do I do this? Do I do that? I feel like this. I feel like that. And it's like, well, if I don't feel good, maybe my intuition's, fooling me, or, and I feel like, we have to make choices sometimes on the fertility journey that are not sure. People are not sure, is this the right choice? And does it feel good? And as you talked about earlier, like sitting with that inner kind of voice, or sitting with that inner connection of going, okay, what do I need? I always feel like it's like, what do I need next? What do I need now? And as you were talking about earlier, action, maybe that big piece that could be missing, or, some other part to that.
Mhm. And, I think you said that so great, so beautifully, and I love that activity that you did in your workshop. I think some people I think the misconception is they think the action produces fear, but it actually doesn't. So it's, because we have a circumstance or situation or something that happens to us and we feel afraid and we think it's that circumstance. No, that was just a trigger, because that fear was already inside of you. So it triggers up that subconscious fear that was inside of you, and it's clearing out. Each time that we feel the fear, I believe that I see it as coming up and being transmuted. And so just remembering, but that's what we have to constantly remember over and over and over again, is that the circumstance, the situation is always neutral. So what we're experiencing on the inside is not because of, what the doctor said, what my husband said, not because of the fight, not because of something that happened to me, but it's actually just a fear that was already inside of me. And that's where I can say thank you. And now I say thank you whenever I feel that feeling, and I don't make up the story. I try. We're all working on this, but I try not to make up the story that he did this to me, she did this to me, I feel fear because of this person or this person, No. That was just inside of me, and I'm actually thankful because now I see it clearing out and it's no longer there. And that's how I deactivate it. And then the next time a similar circumstance happens, I can have a completely different reaction.
Yes, a different perception of it. That's a really good point. As you're saying that, it reminds me of this woman who came in person sitting before me, and she struggling to conceive, and sweet being she was. And she got very emotional at one point because she said, I'm happy for my in-laws, but they're pregnant again, and it's like easy for them. And she felt jealousy and probably rage. And I looked at her and I said, because we're in person, I could look at her in her eyes and I could tune into her energy if she was able to receive what I would say next. And after quite some time, I look at her and I said, what a gift that your sister is invoking this energy in you. And yes, you're jealous. And are you allowed to be jealous? Yeah, because we're taught, right, as little girls, don't be jealous. It's not nice. Jealousy just means you want what they have, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so then again, I said to her, I'm going to repeat that again to you. I was like, so she's giving you something right now. Like, look at the energy of it. Don't look at the story. And and it was, she was kind of being with it, but it's still, it brought up a lot of feelings. And, what's her next interpretation of it? I don't know. Will she come back and get enraged by it? Or will she just sit a moment and be like, okay, I see that, because it has nothing, and I said it has nothing to do with her. It just has anything to do with your in-laws. It has everything to do with yourself. It reminds me of when my husband, when he starts fighting about dishes or laundry, I'm like, okay, it's not about the dishes or laundry. Let's go to the next part. Let's pretend the dishes and laundry aren't there. What is the real feeling? I'm sure he's probably like, oh, there she goes, but we've been together a long time. But I always feel like there's always an underlying story that we can't, putting blame on other people or looking at it. It's like, that's just like more energy. But it's like, bring it back to yourself and go, oh, okay, yeah. Most people don't want to do that. We know that, right? It's like, I don't want to do that. But because then you're, like, as you were saying earlier, then you're taking your own sense of responsibility. And who wants to do that? Like, I've been a victim before. I've been in blame. Like, it feels good sometimes. But yeah, to perpetually live in that place is unreal. So it's like, okay, am I done playing around with that drama? Now let me come back.
Totally. And I love what you said, really giving people permission to have their feelings. And I call it, don't add another layer. If you feel jealous, that's okay. Just own that. I'm feeling jealous. Don't feel bad about feeling jealous. Taking 100% responsibility over that feeling, and then looking, okay, is that something that I want to experience? Then you can go even deeper. What are the payoffs that I get from this? Where is it that where can I kind of abdicate responsibility when I feel this emotion instead of really doing the work? And again, I'll talk about actions to align my life, and all of these lower vibrational feelings that we get, they seem, we wallow in them, myself included, because they seem like they're solving a problem, but they're actually not. And so when we can let ourselves have that, okay, that's fine. I see it. I'm taking responsibility. I'm going to let myself experience this. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to shift out and actually take the actions that are going to change my reality.
Kathy, we're just coming up to the end, and I love everything that you are sharing from this multidimensional space of beliefs, subconscious, action, love, fear, surrender. I think we covered it all.
We covered a lot.
This is I feel like we're both zapping an energy world here, boom, 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 boom. I feel like we covered so many huge chunks of stuff that push against the struggle of fertility. I know we didn't really get to talk much about partnership, but maybe just for a moment, do you get to see partnership happen, and do you get couples, or is it more individuals?
I get more individuals. Did you have a specific question for this?
Because I feel like everything you're saying, I feel like the feminine brain is very receptive to what you're sharing, but I wonder how a more masculine brain would receive that. And I would probably say, and culturally and subconsciously, I don't know if you've seen if you've brought this kind of wisdom to couples, together, so they could both do their work. Because I do feel like the one who has the womb, the portal of light, of holding, usually seems to do the most work. And so I'm starting to see more couples, and I've even had some men come to me without their because their partner said, I'm booking a session with Kelly. And so okay. And they have to be very spiritually aligned, conscious men to really do that. And then I see more now in the past month, because I offer couple sessions now, and seeing couples together to see the dynamic, because if you're in partnership and you're on this journey together, it's very stressful to feel a separation, or to feel like one person is doing all the work and the other person isn't. Because again, and I tell women, whoever womb identified, whoever has the womb, you're going to do most of the work, because you're literally physically, emotionally, spiritually creating and building this human being and doing other things to create that space. But partner, I do feel like, is very crucial. That's what I'm curious. And, it is very different for me, because I'm going, this, I would say last year it started more male individuals, like energy sessions and spirit baby stuff, and then seeing them as a couple, and then okay, what does this look like? And how would you bring that you could bring that, that insight into but I don't know if that's it sounds like you get more women coming in your directions for now. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I feel like men need to hear all that stuff. I don't know. I just feel like to absorb how they would, what does that look like for that, and, of course I'm talking about hetero partnership, but, there's all kinds of partnerships.
Yes. So for right now, it's all women that come to me. I've communicated with one partner relationship, but I had an intuition just this morning for my next iteration of my group course to include the men just little by slowly. But, for women out there, because I'm just thinking about who's listening to this and they're like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know if this brings any solace, But women, as women, and this is the other thing. I mean, I was talking a lot about the old consciousness of motherhood, but it really is this outdated understanding and this misunderstanding of what it is to be a woman, because as a woman, we are the initiators. You know, when you look at nature, we, you know, the spiders, right? The spiders are usually the bigger ones. The bees, like the women bees, are the ones that are the workers, and the men are like the drones. You know, the birds, you know, the men, you know, the women are the prizes, and the male birds are the ones that dance around. I mean, and this is like over and over again. As women, we are these prizes. We are this light. We are the initiators. And I do believe when we do this work in ourselves, and I believe that this work, our work is our healing, then we, you know, inspire our men. We lead them from this feminine power. It's not, you know, it's not this emasculating, bossy power, but we lead them, and we're leading them energetically, whether they know it or not. And so it's the mindset shift is seeing ourselves as the powerful ones. And it's not even dragging your husband to come to, you know, to do the work, but actually just shining in your brilliance. And then suddenly he'll have an idea like, oh, maybe I would like to come, or maybe I would like to read the book that you're reading, or what, you know, I would like to engage in this conversation, or even as much as you know, because we as women, we know when our partners are listening to us. And you don't have to shout. You just speak in a way with this confidence and this radiance and this light, and it's not with a defensiveness. You speak in a way where you're not trying to coach them, you're not trying to push them, or you don't have these secret agendas, you're not emasculating. You just living your truth and your naturalness and your natural power and spark. And I believe this is what brings men forward. And this is the power that we have inside of us. And, you know, and I hear, right, we as women, right, because we're in that transitional phase, we are the ones that doing that. But, you know, as much as possible, just don't feel resentful. And I've been on that side, right? I have to do so much. But, you know, just, you know, setting boundaries, doing your healing work, making sure that you have space and time, stepping into your own feminine leadership and power, giving yourself pleasure, you know, making sure that you feel pleasure and joy. And that's what you're responsible for. And when you shift, your man will follow. Your man will serve you and help out more. You don't have to say it. So I hope that helps. And I do believe
that does help, because that does help. That makes sense, because I was just talking to someone about that as we individuals are shifting our consciousness, that our partners will either fall away or join us. That you don't have to always put action. It's not about dictating. It's just about being and seeing how they're elevating or not. But also, you know, at other times, having them do the work. I feel like where I go with it, to go, okay, you know, maybe you're so super stressed and you're not eating good, or let's, you know, what does that look like? Or so no, you answered it. You answered it.
And I think that's an important point too. And I think that's an important point with, you know, even going deeper. Fall away or join us, because we have to accept that possibility that they could fall away. You know, and the reason why I said this is so important, because it has to do with surrender too. When we truly surrender, we're trusting, we're taking the actions, we're also not attached to the results. Otherwise it would be conditional surrender. So it's like, I'm going to do all this work. I'm going to believe for this outcome. And no, it doesn't work like that. When you surrender completely. You know, it's, you know, it's like a cancer patient. Let's say a cancer patient's like, oh, I'll believe in God and I'll pray if you take away the cancer. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that, because you have to go through, we each have to go through our own fear storm to arrive at that bigger path and purpose. And that fear storm may be that, you know, your partner leaves, or the baby doesn't come the way that you thought, or there's a miscarriage. We cannot, we as coaches, and I just speak for myself, I can't guarantee an outcome for you.
Mm-hmm.
We literally just have to do the work.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for sharing all your insights and your personal connection to this fertility world. I would love for you to share any upcoming events, workshops, or ways that people can contact you. I know your website, maybe an email or a Facebook or however, because I know your website is in repair. What do you call it? It's in construction.
Yeah, my website was hacked. I don't know who would hack my website, but my website was hacked. We should get it up soon. My VA said would have a draft for me. So my website is kathyospina.com. I encourage everyone to download the free gift. It's a 3-part video series on manifesting secrets for highly conscious women. So that's the best way that you can, get in touch with me and follow up with me if, you resonated with anything that I shared.
Any other last final words to leave people with?
No, Kelly. No, this was great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you for being such a light, such an inspiration. I'm really, really grateful that you had me on the show.
All right. Wonderful to have you. Thank you so much.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.